Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel, proudly in association with sharpbetting.co.uk. Danny, thank you for joining me again tonight. We're here again. It's almost in reaction mode of the fight that went down last night. Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr., an incredible fight that's going to live long in the memory. Some people seen controversy. We said off camera, Danny, that fights like this attract the casual who don't tend to watch your standard boxing. They only watch the big fights, your Fury, U6, your AJs, etc. So within this video, I'm just really keen to know from yourself, what did you make of those scorecards? So it's a unanimous decision. All three judges scored it 116, 112, 4 rounds up to Chris Eubank Jr. That's been heavily backed, heavily criticised. I've seen a lot of people say a draw. I've seen some people say Conor Benn by two. What did you make of those scorecards, Danny?
Thought the scorecards were fine, to be honest. I had the fight scored 7-5 to Chris Eubank Jr., and I thought that was probably slightly favourable to Conor
Mm.
Benn. Because I was sort of doing social posts whilst the fight's going, so you're sort of scurrying and the commentary can influence you. But if anything, 116, 112, you can even argue slightly wider to Eubank. I can't see a draw. I can't see any way Conor Benn wins the fight. There was a lot of close rounds, a lot of scrappy rounds. It's a case of Benn was sort of half landing big shots, hitting glove, hitting shoulder on the neck. Eubank maybe a bit more consistent with the jab, certainly in the early stages. But no, a draw, Conor Benn, I don't see that. As you alluded to, you saw some ridiculous opinions from people on social media who, I didn't see any opinions from them on the Jack Catterall
Yeah.
Barboza fight. They weren't watching that night. They weren't watching Joe Joyce the other week. Yeah, I'll not name any names, but yeah, I think the scorecards were absolutely fine.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree. Like we say, these fights attract a completely different audience to, like you say, your Jack Catteralls, etc. I had it 116, 112 myself. I had a lot of arguments in varying different group chats with people that were almost saying that's bias, that's completely wrong. How can you score it that way? But for me, for once, the judges got it spot on. I genuinely can't remember the last time I said that for a boxing fight of any level, of any nature. So for me, that's quite impressive. But obviously, Danny, as we say, these fights of these nature, they attract different audiences. They appeal to the casual, etc. Is there any way you can see, maybe why the casual fan who doesn't tend to watch boxing regularly scored it for Conor Benn? Was it the fact that Benn was throwing the bigger punches? Was it the fact Ben was, he was throwing a lot of almost haymakers? He was trying to step in and at times force the pace. He was stepping on Eubank early. Do you think it's possibly the fact he was searching for the knockout a lot more frequently than Chris Eubank?
Well, there's that, and there's the fact that if they were watching it on Sky Sports, the commentary was very pro Ben,
Very
and
biased.
like the commentary can have a massive influence on you subconsciously. Even for myself, I can be influenced by commentary at times, and I would go as far to say for your casual fan, the commentary is the defining factor in a competitive fight. If someone's getting battered, obviously, I mean, they've got a pair of eyes, the commentary won't dissuade, but for a close competitive fight, I think if it's someone who watches boxing once, twice a year, the commentary will sort of decide how they feel it's gone. And also, I think the fact is they probably actually don't know what 116, 112 means in terms of rounds. They probably think that's like you've given Conor Benn 2 rounds. I would generally think that's what a lot of them believe. They probably don't know that's 8 rounds to four. But yeah, the commentary can have a massive impact. Maybe the way Ben was fighting, people want to see knockouts, they want to see entertaining fights. And Eubank, especially down the later stretch when he was tired, was given that as well. Ben was given it from the start, and that's what people want to see. So maybe they give more credit to that as well.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I've I've watched boxing, like you say, where you listen to certain commentary, and for example, the one that always springs to mind is Usyk Balyu. Balyu would land a jab, and the commentary would have had you thinking Usyk Balyu's just landed an uppercut from the gods. Usyk's legs were all over the gaff. He's gone, and it was completely a different story. So I think, like you say, the commentary has a big factor. They probably were. I personally didn't have the commentary on for that reason, where I was watching it because, they can sway your opinion. And I think they definitely did help to sway opinions. And I do think, like you say, from my perspective, I think Conor Benn swinging for the heavens at times for the casual fan, that appears, they're looking for the knockout, they're winning the fight. In that aspect of, looking at a potential rematch, do you think because the casual fan and varying media that work in football, etc., are scoring the fight so differently and not causing an uproar, but making their feelings known. Do you think that could potentially lead? Obviously, I know they have discussed a rematch and Turkey said there's a clause, but Eddie spoke differently, etc. But do you feel like the appeal of the casual and the reaction to these scorecards could play a big factor in a rematch?
Oh yeah, there's definitely big public clamour for the rematch. Ironically, Eddie is one of the only people I've seen not push for a rematch and maybe suggest something differently alongside obviously sort of more traditional respected voices in the boxing media and such as that. That, we discussed in another video if people want to watch it about whether we think a rematch should happen for the future of either fighter. So we'll not go into sort of too much detail on that. But a rematch would be big. It would maybe be bigger. I mean, it would be hard to be bigger just because of all the subplots you had and the build up with senior and stuff and the madness on the night. But it would be big. It would sell out Spurs again. Could maybe do Wembley with the right undercard potentially at the right time of year if there's a lull in football or whatever. But yeah, there was 100%. There's big demand for that rematch, which I think when news of the rematch clause came to light initially, there was maybe sort of question marks because I think regardless if you were picking Eubank or picking Benn, I think the majority of people were picking Eubank. They were expecting the fight to be one-sided. It was expected to be Eubank dominates and stops him, or that Eubank's completely shot at the weight and Ben's the man to catch him cold. Neither of those things unfolded, so there's more demand for a rematch than perhaps we thought there would be, for sure. But as I said, I don't want it to happen. Like,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with yourself again. I just think, although even Eddie Hearn himself hasn't been as vocal as almost we would have expected him to be demanding the rematch, it should be happening, etc., etc. I think the uproar will say, I've seen some big personalities within the media, especially with that cover normally the footballing side of things without naming names. Um, the clamour for, scorecards were wrong, should have been a draw at worst, etc. I think that alone will lead to the likes of Turkey, demanding the rematch because of the clamour around it. I think the people like that will be looking at the rematch anyway. But if they get anyone to scroll through social media and they'll see the varying opinions, for me, from what I've seen, it's either Eubank clearly won or it was a robbery, draw at worst. Conor Benn did much more, etc., etc. So I think those scorecards could play a favour in a potential rematch. The way the reaction has been on social media, but for me, for you, scorecards were fair. Possibly could have been a little bit wider. That's ourselves. Let us know down below in the comments, guys. Do you think the scorecards were fair? Do you agree with those personalities on social media that believe Conor Benn won a draw at the very worst? Please let us know down below in the comments. Like, subscribe, let us know what you think. And once again, Danny, thank you for joining me tonight.
thanks, mate.